huge majority of people in jail are political victims. I think that there are a lot more political prisoners than we acknowledge.
Yeah, who became political prisoners.
But they are political awareness because there was no movement on the streets to make them aware. The issues in jail have made them more politically aware. And so, just as on the streets, when you take a stand, a principled stand against repression, you eventually have to sacrifice. Well, in prison it's the same thing. And when you see them take that stand, understanding that they will sacrifice, then you have some kind of respect for their integrity and have to give respect to their commitment to more than just themselves. So that's how I see that, you see. And there's some people who have been political before they came to prison who were involved in underground economy or, you know, some kind of activity to survive, who have maintained political principles and done the right thing inside these walls. And I'm not trying to make the prison movement the only part of our struggle, but it's so very important, so very clear that you can't get around that. You can't get around that. You can't. It's just like, and I want to get to the methadone, the drug linking detox. One of the things in the Rockefeller program, and remember, the Rockefeller program in 1971 said that if you had any drugs in your system or was caught with a nickel bag of reefer, this is not 1998, I'm talking about 1970, when everybody smoked reefer, when it was not, if you were busted for that kind of stuff, you would be put on the Rockefeller program. If you didn't go on the Rockefeller program, you had to go to jail. So people opt for the Rockefeller program. And so when they opt for the Rockefeller program, they end up being put on methadone. And so we said to ourselves, well, what kind of sense does that make? Somebody who's never did anything with smoke reefer, who's busted with some reefer on them, opts for the Rockefeller program as opposed to going in a year and a half in Rikers Island or something like that, ends up being put on a methadone program with 40 milligrams of methadone a day. Where's this coming from? That was so clear, chemical warfare, that it was easy to explain to the masses. It was evident that Eli Lilly, Rockefeller, the whole combination working together, and again, New York State Senate, the New York State legislature, voting in the Rockefeller program, and then get federal funds for it. And they're addicting all of the black and Puerto Rican people to methadone. Well, why are you going to addict them to methadone? Because they knew where everybody was. They were able to addict a whole population. And so then chemical warfare was so clear and blatant that we had to fight the drug war in order to expose this country's intent. And so in 1971, we opened up the Lincoln Detox Acupuncture Drug Unit.
And who's we?
The we is a man by the name of Franklin Apfel, a man by the name of Walter Bosque, myself, and Franklin Apfel, Walter Bosque, a woman by the name of, her name is Sauda now, but her name is Ife, and I'm trying to think, Maria, Sister Maria. They were all part of the Acupuncture Collective, where we began to use nurses' aides, counselors, and one doctor to begin to investigate the possible use of acupuncture for drug, heroin, cocaine, opiates, as well as methadone withdrawal. Now, what happened was, in 1971, I had 2 children that were in an accident, car accident. And they were paralyzed. Both of them were paralyzed. And I had a meaningful relationship with a group down on the Lower East Side called Iwakun, which was an Asian aggressive group. Through Yuri Kochiyama, Nobuko Miyamoto, Sue, a whole bunch of my friends down there. And so the children were in the hospital for about a month, paralyzed, they couldn't walk. I just couldn't accept that. And one day I went down to Iwakun, and they always had people services. That whole tendency had continued in the community. And so there was a woman, an old woman there from China, who was using a treatment modality called moxibustion on the Chinese who come from the old country, who didn't like taking medication. And this moxibustion is the herb that smells somewhat like marijuana, and it's very strong smell. And I came into the office, I said, what's that? And they said that people getting treated. And treated for what? And so they, different arthritis and stuff like that. And so I asked the lady, would she be willing to treat my sons? And she said that she, through the translator, that she would. So out of Mary Immaculate Hospital, we took them down to Iwakun for a whole month. And she used moxibustion on them. And after a month, they both were able to walk. One's speech was slurred, but 95% recovery. After the Western doctors said he couldn't. And at the time, I was working at Lincoln Detox. So I was like, that's it. If he could do that for paralyzation, then we can handle it. And you have to remember, drug withdrawal it is clearly about the withdrawal of the drug, off the drug itself. But back then, heroin addiction also had a powerful secondary symptoms effect: liver deterioration, spleen deterioration, kidney deterioration. Now, all of these things created secondary symptoms. And this acupuncture thing was like mean on the secondary symptoms. So most people, if they wanted to get off the drugs, even though the withdrawal was off the drugs was successful, the secondary symptoms would create the pain and discomfort that they would run back to the drug in order to alleviate the secondary symptoms. So the acupuncture was able to deal with the secondary symptoms, so when they were detoxified off the drugs, that they wouldn't have the secondary symptoms, would not call them back for the drug. You follow what I'm saying? Those of us who, But anyway, and I think that we took it uptown to the Bronx, and we got in touch with various people around the world to try to find out about it. Frank and Amphil did a lot of calling, and we all, reached out for different people. And we finally got in touch with a man named Mario Oscar Wetzel. His son's name was Mario Wetzel. And Mario Wetzel was the head of the Montreal Acupuncture Association, and his father was head of the International Association of Acupuncture and the United Nations representative of the World Health Organization on acupuncture. And so we felt that we had made inroads into the acupuncture community. And he came down to our clinic. And when we first started acupuncture treatment, the acupuncture treatment was initially acupressure. And so we were learning different points on the body. And people would come up to the clinic and we would say, listen, we want to try something out on you. And by the time between the Young Lords Party and the Black Panther Party and Atrium, and we had trust in the Bronx like nothing else. It was, if they didn't do anything, they trusted us in the Bronx and at Lincoln Hospital, and Lincoln Detox in particular. And so when the patients or victims would come up, we would say, well, listen, we're not going to give you no methadone today, but what we're going to do is massage your feet, we massage your back, and we massage your ears. And what we would use, we're going to use our finger. And so, from 71 to 72, approximately, before we even got needles, people would come up to the Bronx, dope fiends, hardened dope victims. We would massage their ears and massage their hands and their legs, and we would stand there with our fingers in their ears or in the different points, and we'd do deep breathing, and they'd fall right out to sleep and just relax, and then the next day they'd be back for that treatment. And we were detoxifying people off of heroin and cocaine and methadone with acupressure, a lot of love, a lot of commitment to it. And it was some of the most rewarding times of our lives, you know. And it was just great. It was just great. It was spirited. And we then began to get the needles and learn needle insertions and how to deal with various symptoms. And as opposed to a lot of acupuncturists at the time were Western doctors who learned what we call push-button acupuncture. And push-button acupuncture, we call, is based upon the fact that if you say, well, I have a cold, and they have a point on the ear or on the body, this is a good cold point. And, you know, you get your needle in there, and your cold's supposed to go away. Well, we resisted that. We always wanted to know the theory of acupuncture. And so the Chinese theory of acupuncture and the French training of acupuncture, because our sponsor school was from Montreal, so we were learning from the French, or in Noger and all of them, we began to understand the theory of acupuncture. And in understanding the theory of acupuncture, it gave us a very clear perspective of life. A lot of the people who were working on the drug victims were once drug victims themselves. And one of the things in the acupuncture theory is the 5-element theory. And the 5-element theory talks about things evolving. Things always change. That you always move from one quality to another quality. And this process is what keeps the universe and the human being in connection. And that lesson of constant change, and constant growth, and decline and incline was very good for our revolutionary spirit, because Lincoln Detox was a revolutionary drug organization. And so we never allowed ourselves to be comfortable with just treating. We had to advocate. We had to expose the drug war. And so after we became proficient in treating and understood the theory of methadone and where it came from and how Hitler had developed it and how the Food and Drug Administration had kidnapped kidnapped the formula and had sold it to Rockefeller, and how Rockefeller's family had then sold it to Eli Lilly, and then Eli Lilly, and then Rockefeller then opened up the Rockefeller program and brought Eli Lilly back into the game with state-sponsored methadone clinics and the major stocks in it. So we were able to expose the genocide war of the methadone in relationship to the acupuncture, in relationship to the drug. And so plagues and the influx of drugs and the CIA, we began to advocate. And so in advocating, the revolutionary organizations at Lincoln, the Black Young Boys Party, the remnants of the Black Panther Party, which was the National Committee for the Defense of Political Prisoners, and remnants of the Republican of Africa, and ATRM and the East, and the various groups that were instructors and counselors up at Lincoln Detox, we became a target of the state. Mayor Koch, if you remember, was the head of the Board of Estimates in 75, from 74 up to 76, 77. Mayor Koch's major thrust into being a mayor was that he was going to get rid of these poverty pimp drug programs. And so he began to attack all of the Synanon and Daytop, which are called therapeutic programs that the federal government was giving money to in order to fight the drug plague. The Addiction Services Agency was a part of the state. And the National Institute of Drug Withdrawal was the feds. And so Koch and Charles Schumer, if you all know Charles Schumer, a very influential congressman today, were all part of this attack on drug programs in order to expose state spending, government spending under Mayor Beam and the like. And so his attack on the drug program, and in particular Lincoln Detox, catapulted him into the limelight around saving money, real thrifty on money in the city of New York. And so the Lincoln Detox program, they tried to stop the acupuncture program at Lincoln Detox, basically saying that we had no protocol. We had a protocol. Okay, and at the time, this became like in 74, 75, Richard Tabb, Franklin Ansel had left, and Richard Tabb, who was the grandson of President Tabb, was our doctor, the MD on staff at the time. And Richard Tabb was the reason we were able to continue the research protocol without intervention, because he was a licensed MD. The National Conference of Labor Committee, who was under LaRoche, the LaRoche Pharmaceuticals, with Charles Schumer, was the so-called hot dog investigators going around investigating drug programs. So at that time, President Nixon had been to China and had opened up this whole acupuncture thing in China. He was opening up this whole thing. Peter Bourne, who was at the time head of the National Institute, director of National NIDA, he became the international surveyor of acupuncture and drug withdrawal in the world for the United Nations. And so he was going around reviewing all of these drug programs. So on one particular day, Charles Schumer and the Roche organization, which is the National Caucus of Labor Committee, had made a big public announcement that they were going to investigate the corruption at Lincoln Detox. At the same day, Peter Bourne was coming in representing the federal government and investigating the proficiency and the capabilities of acupuncture and drug withdrawal in Lincoln Detox. All hell broke loose. That night they killed Richard Tabb. Richard Tabb was found shot up with drugs, left in the back of the auditorium. In fact, it was Peter Bourne who saw the body at the time that we were doing the tour. Schumer and the National Caucus of Labor Committee was out at the Lincoln Hospital with all of these. They had been known for a while, attacking the Mama Baraka, attacking a whole lot of groups, going around with boomchuckers beating on people. They had come up to attack the program. So it was a melee all out in the streets of Lincoln Detox. That is the type of atmosphere, that is the type of struggle we had. And at the time, Stanley Cohen, Attorney Stanley Cohen, was our attorney. He was also a Silas attorney in the last part of her trial. He was also found dead just before she was to go on trial in Jersey after winning these cases. Lincoln Detox was a cornerstone, a counterintelligence against what was left of the remnants of very significant movements in the New York area. And also that it represented a very violent, realistic attack against chemical warfare. Because I think if it wasn't for Lincoln Detox's overt stand, nationally, internationally, and locally against methadone, we would have had much more of a penetration of methadone in the cities, in the cities of America and around the world. I think that we exposed it. We were able to detoxify people off of methadone quicker. We were able to stop crib deaths quicker with children who were dying from parents who were addicted to methadone because they had not understood their relationship to it. We were able to demonstrate that social and political activity, along with acupuncture, would help detoxify people off of drugs quicker than just methadone detoxification.
Did this lead to your arrest?
This led to my being targeted.
Okay.
And I was fired from Lincoln Detox at that time and sent to, well, I was fired. It took 30 police and, took us away from Lincoln Detox. I mean, during the course of that time, we had some very, we supported the Carlos Feliciano, the National Independence Movement. Our program had a prisoner fund that we supported people in various movements. We supported all the Silas cases, all the Rubens cases, New York City. We did everything we could to show the victims gave back. I mean, the drug victims gave back to the community some of the things that we supported. The Gypsy Cab struggle. We built the Black and Puerto Rican Coalition in construction work. We built the Welfare Rights Organization, Wilsonburg. All these came from the victims becoming politicized and trying to give back into their community more from what they had taken out. And so we became a thorn. In fact, there was no movement, organizational movement, between 73 and 77 that was, or 72 and 77, that was as significant as Lincoln Detox outside of the East. I mean, between the Black Panther Party, the Republican of Africa, Atrium, I mean, the cornerstone was there at Lincoln Hospital. It was a hell of a place. It was a hell of a period. It was always serve the people and fight the enemy, fight the kids. It was a great place. And that's where Tupac grew up.
Okay, do you want to say a few words about Tupac and the legacy that he leaves, especially for young people today, and anything behind his killing, murder?
Well, like I said before, I think that I get a little emotional because I've been separated from my children, and I think most of us political prisoners have been separated from our children. I think that that's the consequences of COINTELPRO, and that's the consequences of struggle. I think that our movement has not been able to compensate for that absence. And I think that where people might romanticize about who we are, our children who were targeted and harassed, who were followed, who were, put in fearful situations because, like myself, I was clandestine for many years and on the run. And so my daughter and my sons were always followed and they would go into their schools. And so they knew the reality of what this is. Tupac wasn't so-called a bad guy just to be bad. I don't think, or angry just to be angry. I think his mother's life as a member of the Panther 21 and the Panther situation, his growing up in Lincoln Hospital with us, that whole struggle with the Republic. He grew up around dope things all his life. He grew up in the tension of what we were going through with these various counterintelligence operations. And I think that in a better world, we could have done better with that anger. and a better world and a better circumstances. But I think he did the best that he could. I think that we all need a chance to grow. And I'm proud of him. I'm proud of him because he was one genius. His, creatively, he tried to put his pain into his art and to give voice to that pain that so many other people feel. And I think that to this new wave, wherever they evolve to take over from us, his impact will have a significant influence on them. His art, his words, his bodaciousness, and his view of things will clearly be a reality that must be analyzed in the context of that movement's development. I think he articulated so many things and so many feelings in such an artistic way that history will indicate that he is a barometer of this element. He will definitely be a barometer of this element. And for that, I'm proud of him. I'm proud of him. And I think that we must learn that this is a war. This is a war that affects everyone in it. We don't want people to join up and think it's a quick fix. This is a long, arduous struggle, but it's a glorious one because it's right. It's what we should do. We should do no less. The people who died off those ships would expect nothing less. People who survived those ships would expect nothing less. And so, although this is a rough one, we got to do it. We got to do it. And so, I think that the hip-hop nation is a nation that is trying to define for itself. I think we should help it define some better goals and objectives. I think we should give it a chance to evolve and mature, and I think we should give it some insight. And I think that they're going to get a healthy dose of repression. But because they're not cognizant of their own consolidation, they don't feel it right now, And so, but I know that they will be the vanguard of the next wave. And I think the counterintelligence, the assassination of Tupac and the assassination of Biggie, the jury's still out on why. But we know that the government was around them consistently. We know that. We know that the ATF, the FBI, and the like was in Tupac's caravan at the time, and regular off-duty police. No response to the shooters. No follow, no foot chase, no nothing. We know that they had taken pictures of Biggie's car a couple of minutes before he was assassinated. Nothing. And I think that we will have, in the end, some answers. I think we have an obligation to have some answers. But I think that the main thing we need to do is to teach of the lesson and not allow it to divide the coasts like we're involved in some kind of serious tribalism or some Bantusism to do it, end up like Namibia and Angola and the like, and killing and that kind of nonsense. We can't have that. And I think we should fight against that. And I think we will.
Okay, in the time that we have left, I think what really came through with, all this rich wisdom and history that you've given, our viewers, is that, the need to have a united front with all different kinds of organizations. You talked about the RNA, the Panthers, the New African Independence Movement, the Young Lords, the fact that you all work together despite any political differences or different programs, you saw the need to have a united front. And I think that's very important for, young activists and even veteran activists who may, have been a little discouraged, over the years. I think it's important for them to hear this message from someone like you.
I think we carry too much old baggage. I think in the 60s and the 70s, it was the Marxists against the Nationalists. It was the integrationists against the separatists in the 50s and the 60s. In the 70s, it was the class struggle against the, I think people still carry those issues. I think that the National Liberation Front has resolved within itself that we have people who believe that the class struggle is a significant struggle within the black liberation struggle. We also have people who believe that the struggle for land and independence is a very significant part and imperative part of that struggle. But I think that under the National Liberation Front, we agree that we can all and we must function together. So that's why this front is so important to us, that it has emerged from us as prisoners. Hopefully that's a guiding light. We have people with old baggage, old suspicions. But when you have to sacrifice like we sacrifice, you realize to put certain contradictions in their proper perspective. And when you do that, I think that we can maximize what we do have in common. We shouldn't be liberal. We shouldn't let jackanapes or whatever you call it run rampant. We shouldn't have people disrespecting people's integrity and character without valid criticism. But we don't think that people's different view of where we're going is in fact a contradiction. It is a contradiction, but it's not a contradiction written in blood. It's a contradiction that we struggle for in order to get to where we're going. Okay? And when you believe in what you believe in, you can stand on that. And you can stand on that based upon your work. Put your work first. We need dreamers. We need dreamers. We need people who will put that vision into practice. We need people who will understand that that practice is what's going to guide the future. Without the practice, it's just a bunch of hot air theory. So, aim high and go all out. That's my position.
And also, do you just want to, I'm pretty sure we're going to be able to send this tape to Assata Shakur in Cuba. Key and I met with her when we were in Cuba last year for the World Youth Festival. And I was wondering, do you want to send a message to Assata, who's such an inspiration to all of us?
Assata and Nahanda. We talked the other day. We had a radio interview. You should get the copy of it. Beautiful interview. I believe that Assata and Nahanda must be supported. I believe that Assata Nahanda represents an international foreign affairs office for our movement, different than in any other situation, because Cuba is a very important example. We always anticipate, and I'll try to make this quick, the Cuban people represent a spirit of character that's their collective consciousness. And they have something to be proud of, that they have stood up against the biggest bully in the world. Right. And they have suffered from it, but that suffering allows them to walk very proudly when they come to the Olympics, or when any time that they're represented on the world front. The Cuban people walk with pride, and they're looked on as pride. A lot of things that we look for, the Lexus, the Mercedes, and all of these things, Assata and Nahanda have shown that they can be quality people, give to a struggle, have quality life, be an inspiration to us, absent these material things we so strive for. We have to, as a people, develop something that gives our spirit the integrity that our oppression merits and our resistance merits. And I think that we need to look for something in us to give us that kind of fortitude. And Assata and Nahanda, the work that they're doing in Cuba, the support from black people, because black people all over America love Cuba because they stand up, but they love Cuba even more because our heroes are there and they're living like human beings and giving quality to their life and lives of other people. And so I'm so proud of them. You know, I'm just flabbergasted, you know, because that's how it's supposed to be.
Okay, well, thank you. Okay.
On June 30th of 1998, an appeal for a new evidentiary hearing was filed in federal court in New York for Dr. Mutulu Shakur and co-defendant Marilyn Buck. The appeal centered around two themes. First, the only witness that connected Dr. Shakur or Ms. Buck to crimes was Tyrone Ricin, and it was shown that Ricin had perjured himself during the trial when he untruthfully denied removing an M16 weapon from Fort Bragg that was later implicated in the death of a bank guard in the Bronx. If this had come out during the trial, it would have shown Ricin to be an unreliable witness. Second, the government claimed that during the trial they had no surveillance reports on the defendants, when in fact Claude Strickland, an NYPD undercover cop, now retired, had produced 200 such reports on Dr. Shakur, and not a one of those reports showed any criminal activity. The refusal to turn over the documents, Michael Tarif Warren, Mutulu's attorney, said, violates Dr. Shakur's constitutional rights. Exculpatory evidence cannot be kept from the hands of the defendant. It was Rudolph Giuliani, then federal attorney, now the mayor, who congratulated the agencies for their collaboration in the Joint Terrorist Task Force, and it was these agencies that made this frame-up come about. No evidence in itself indicated criminality, Jill Sophia Elijah, another attorney, told the judge. It was only Ricin's testimony. When the judge asked if the talk about the M16 rifle, quote, removed, unquote, from Fort Bragg wasn't just peripheral, Ms. Elijah replied, no. It was the only weapon linked ballistically to any crime scene, the murder in the Bronx, and only Tyrone Ricin was guilty of that. Tyrone Ricin has since disappeared into the Federal Witness Protection Program and was never charged with the death of the Bronx bank guard. The jury didn't know he was lying about the gun, Jonathan LaBelle summed up later, another attorney. The power of Strickland's police reports would have changed the outcome of the case. He pointed to similar misconduct by prosecution and police in the cases of Geronimo Jijaga Pratt and Daruba bin Wahad. Once they received the reports, they got out, he said. Only your help and support can free Dr. Mutulu Shakur. Please join us in this struggle.